The Sam Sorbo Show is brought to you in partnership by the Herzog Foundation.
Well, hi there. Today's guest is an author and an advocate teaching children to think critically for themselves in a world that pressures them to conform. Her newest book encourages young readers to ask questions, to seek truth, and to develop discernment. You won't want to miss this episode of The Sam Sorbo Show. Here we go.
Sam Sorbo.
Sam, welcome back to the program.
I'm glad to welcome Sam Sorbo.
It's great to have you here.
All right, so welcome back. I'm excited to introduce Dr. Shannon Kroner, who is a powerful voice for medical freedom, but also parental rights. She's the founder of Freedom of Religion, United Solutions, which is an organization committed to protecting religious and philosophical exemptions in healthcare and in education. I absolutely loved her first children's book, which is I'm Unvaccinated, and That's Okay. And today she's here to share her newest release, Let's Be Critical Thinkers, which is a much needed resource that helps kids to learn to question, to discern, and to think for themselves in a world full of pressure to conform. You guys know I harp on the lack of discernment in our schools, the fact that we are not taught discernment in our schools. Welcome to the program, Dr. Shannon Kroner.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It's great to see you. And this is an exciting new piece of your collection of children's literature. You're on a roll now. Your first book did very well. It made it all the way to Mar-a-Lago.
Yes, it did. That was really exciting. It was in the gift bags for a really big event, and I was so grateful for that.
Yeah, congratulations on that. So let's talk about the new book. What was the impetus? Why did you decide this is the next book to do?
You know, I realized that after coming out of the pandemic, so many kids were bullied regarding masks and lockdowns and social distancing and mandated vaccines, and not just kids, but adults as well. And so
Yes.
the kids saw the bullying on all levels and the propaganda and, you know, the lack of informed consent. And so I just really felt that I had to put it inside of a book and make it really easy for a child to understand and what it is to be a critical thinker and how to really kind of look at the world through those critical thinking eyes and help them understand that, you know, we've all been lied to. We were all lied to throughout the pandemic, and how they can go about doing the proper research and asking the proper questions, and how to spot propaganda, what propaganda even is, why it's important that they understand how crucial informed consent is, and, you know, really kind of looking at all the different policies that were imposed on all of us through truth. And I just felt that it was so needed because, you know, we know with the way that things are that it's very possible another type of thing could happen, another type of pandemic, or
No.
right now in California, they're already like asking people to start wearing masks. So I just felt that it was really important for children.
I'm sorry. They're starting to ask people to wear masks again?
Yes, they are.
For
And
what justification?
because there's that new strain of COVID going around. And so,
And a lot of people never learned that masks don't work.
they never did. And I actually break it down in a very easy to understand way in my book. You know, the main character of this new book, her name is Darlene Data. And so she does the research on, do masks work? And she, in the book, she interviews different scientists. And I use real research that can be found in the back of the book in the references, real research that show that, you know, the truth about masks and the truth about social distancing. You know, what was that 6-foot rule, and why did germs not pass that 6-foot barrier? You know,
What is the 6-foot rule? Explain to the audience what you mean by that and how you explain it to the kids in the book.
well, one, it was completely made up, and two, you know, people are coughing and sneezing and talking all the time, and singing, whatever it is, we're blowing germs out of our mouth. And so they don't just stop at 6 feet. They, depending on air quality and the flow, if the air conditioning's on, if the window is open, if people are walking around, I mean, not to sound like crazy here, but there's germs everywhere, and so they're all around us, and we're just kind of walking through the world. So there's no 6 foot barrier where like up 6 feet, they stop there. I mean, the same with masks, people were wearing masks that one of the studies that I look at is about how when people wear masks, they speak louder and they speak clearer. And when they do that and they enunciate their words, there's more like spittle that comes out of their mouth. And I illustrate that in this book so that kids can understand. And so, and there's research that shows this and justifies what I'm saying.
But at least it gets trapped in the mask so they get to breathe their own germs back in again.
Right. Yeah. And then I show like the different things, whether smoke can go through a mask.
So let me ask you this. So the book is called Let's Be Critical Thinkers.
Yes.
But it's basically an exercise in thinking critically about COVID.
Well, so yes and no. So it's really thinking critically about all the different policies that we went through.
Right.
Breaking all of that down. But then there are skills to take away that can be used in the future.
Right.
That teach children, what are the right questions to ask?
Right. It's not enough.
Make sense.
It's not enough to get told what questions you might ask. It's actually much more fruitful to do a practice run.
Exactly.
And you're using COVID as the test case. And this is how you think critically about COVID. And therefore, when you go further into the world to another topic, you can think critically about that topic as well.
That's exactly.
A lot of people don't understand what critical thinking is. How do you define it? And then how do you break it down for young children? What age is the book for?
So the book is for 8 through 15.
Okay.
And it's really kind of one of those like late elementary school, middle school, where kids are kind of learning how to research. They're learning how to they're in that area where they're starting to learn how to research topics, learning how to write a paragraph or a research paper. And one of the things that's really great about this new book is I've actually added activities to the back of the book where they can then use that for future. I've included a mind map that helps kids research anything. So whatever it is that they want to research, whether they are, in typical school or homeschool, this is a resource that these children can use to then do their own research and kind of follow the instructions on this mind map on how to break it down and even look to see, what do they believe about whatever it is they're researching and what do other people say, and, really
Sure.
kind of just breaking it all down for them.
So your first book was for younger children.
It was. I felt that it was a really good starting point.
Sure.
Really kind of, I'm unvaccinated and that's okay. And letting kids know that it is okay for them to be unvaccinated. And then I feel like this is the next step is like, okay, now that now, if you've read my first book and you know that it's okay to be unvaccinated, now you know how to really critically think about all the other things that are being put on us.
Right. So is there a different way to teach critical thinking to a young person as opposed to an adult, do you think?
I think that in today's world, everybody needs these critical thinking skills. We saw it that so many adults do not have critical thinking skills. We saw that on display throughout the pandemic. And I actually include some of those references to the comedy that we can kind of laugh about now. But for instance, like there's in my new book, I have an illustration of a woman who is driving alone in her car wearing a mask. And there's an illustration of a person taking a picture, taking a selfie of themselves with a donut and their vaccine card. And, and we saw this with adults and their really lack of critical thinking skills. So really this book can be for all ages. And
Sure.
But when I write my
what's the significance of the donut with the vaccine card? What's that about?
So there were all these, things that people could get. They could get a free donut.
Oh, they got a free donut getting vaccinated, which then you wonder, well, why? It's interesting. So I'm going to totally segue here for just a minute.
Yes.
But why do you suppose there's so much money in this idea of school choice, that the government would fund school choice?
Well, I believe we need, in California, we have no school choice. In California, we have no options, especially if a child is.
No, actually, you have full school choice. You get to choose where your child goes to school.
Well,
they might not take you. You might have to pay for it, but
Right.
school choice actually exists in every state.
But with vaccines, we have zero choice. It's
Yes, that's true.
Right. So
That's
if a child is just missing one single vaccine, just
Yes.
one. So if a child, let's say, for instance, a child actually has hepatitis B and another child has not had the hepatitis B shot, the child that has hepatitis B has the ability to go to whatever school that they are trying to go to. But the child who's missing just one single vaccine has zero choice for school and only has to be homeschooled.
And arguably, the child with Hep B could also have had the Hep B shot.
Yes.
So as long as he has a record of all the shots, he could be severely diseased and still be accepted into school. But
Exactly.
without a full complement of all the vaccines that are on the schedule recommended, your child can't attend a California public school
Or private school or religious school. In California,
they're all mandated.
So in California, we lost our religious exemptions and our personal belief exemptions in 2015. And then in 2019, we lost our medical exemptions. So even if a child has autism or seizures or asthma, allergies, whatever it is,
something that precludes them from, risking getting a vaccine at a young age,
they cannot get a medical exemption. And not only that, but doctors were threatened in California that if they were to write a medical exemption, they could potentially lose their license. So
well, I mean, that's a whole other, it's not a separate issue, but honestly, the idea that doctors are incentivized, like heavily incentivized to have a 100% full vaccine rate in their practice I think that's criminal. I think that should be actionable. It should be actionable.
Yeah, they are incentivized exactly like what you say, and they're getting kickbacks.
Yes.
And
kickbacks. That's a good word for it, because my use of the term incentivized is very bland compared to this idea that they get a kickback if they fully vaccinate all of their patients.
That's true. And so and I hear stories, I get emails all the time from parents saying that their doctor is really kind of strong arming them to get their child vaccinated, or they cannot be a patient of that doctor.
Right. They just say, we can't have you as a patient because you're going to ruin their perfect score. And if you ruin their perfect score, their kickback is severely diminished.
It's true.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
It's a drug cartel.
That's exactly that really is what it is. It is a drug cartel. That's a great way of putting it.
Laugh. So I homeschooled from 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. I homeschooled all the way through. And so I never noticed that they changed the vaccine mandates. Well, California's crazy. So
California is crazy. And, it is.
But luckily, there are alternatives, the homeschooling stuff. The struggle that I have with the school choice is the minute that the funds go to you as a homeschooler in California. They will mandate that you have to vaccinate.
Yes.
You start taking
And
money,
yeah,
they've bought you. They've bought your child.
that's
I think
a
of
great
school.
point.
Yeah, I think of school choice as child trafficking. Frankly, the government's paying you for your child, and then
That's
they will take
that's a
control of
really
your
great
child.
way. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And right now, charter schools are really at risk. There's new
Yes,
legislation in California that is coming after the charter schools, which then in turn comes after the homeschools that are charter homeschools.
sure,
So
sure.
we're going to even lose more options for education and
Well,
educating our
and it's the same thing if they do go through with school choice, then a lot of those funds will be going into the private schools. And so you think it's bad now because they mandate that every child has to be vaccinated to go to school, full stop. They'll mandate other things also for those private schools, like LGBTQ training. When's
absolutely.
that book coming out, Shannon?
I've been
That
asked,
book.
I have been asked many times, and
I'm sure.
actually, there's a Supreme Court, there's a ruling that's gone to the Supreme Court out of Maryland,
Oh,
where
okay. I do want to talk about that. We're going
okay,
to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the Supreme Court case in Maryland, because this is great, and Shannon's such an expert on this stuff. So stay tuned. We've got that and a few more questions for Dr. Shannon Kroner, who is the author of "I'm Unvaccinated and That's Okay," and then the new book is called "Let's Be Critical Thinkers." This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We'll be right back after these messages. Thanks for tuning into the Sam Sorbo Show. We are in a battle for our very nation, a nation that was founded on Christian principles and on the Bible. The Ten Commandments is the basis for our rule of law. But these days, when you go talk to people on the street, you'll find that most of them don't even know what rule of law means. And that's why I'm so proud to have Herzog Foundation as a sponsor of my show. I also love what they do because they seek for the benefit of Christian education throughout the nation. So Herzog Foundation is a wonderful partner for us here at the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for watching. Give your friend the very best with farm to pet dog treats made from 100% single human grade ingredients. These treats never include byproducts, binders, fillers, additives, preservatives, or artificial ingredients. Just pure, wholesome goodness. Visit farmtopettreats.com and use code Sam Sorbo to get 25% off your next order. Treat your dog to healthy, delicious snacks they will love today. All right, welcome back to the program. I'm Sam Sorbo, and my guest is Dr. Shannon Kroner, and she is the author of Let's Be Critical Thinkers. And we just left off before the break, and you brought up this Supreme Court case, which is I'll put it in a nutshell for the viewers. Then you can add your thoughts on this. But the Maryland, I think it's Montgomery County, Maryland, is arguing before the Supreme Court that they have to train children in gay and lesbian sex because it's too onerous, because so many parents would opt out if they can't, if they don't want, so many parents would opt out if they proceeded. And so because they really, really want to talk about sex with children, they're saying that they can't possibly allow parents to opt out. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's
Is it any better than that, or is that like
it's really unfortunate. So what it is this is
unfortunate?
it's in elementary school. So
I
that's
know.
worse, right? So it's in elementary
We
school.
have to talk to the children about gay sex.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And
This
they've
is
brought
a
in
passion for
these
education, Shannon.
it is. I mean, they've brought in these elementary school books for children that one of them is called Pride Puppy. Another one is about kids learning their pronouns, and others are about gay marriage and same-sex relationships. And they are teaching this to children in the classroom. And
Sex toys, lubrication,
yeah,
fellatio. I'm trying to find. This is a clean show, but seriously, and they are so perverted They want so desperately to talk to children about this type of thing, about sex. And
Yeah.
they took it to the Supreme Court. It literally, the Supreme Court judges must be sitting there going, never saw this day coming. Like, never really imagined that this would be the topic.
Well, what's horrible is that these parents then wanted to opt their children out of the classroom while those books are being read.
Right.
And the school said no. The school district said, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that because it's causing too much chaos within the classroom of taking your kids out at certain times. And so they really kind of forced these children to have to listen to these lessons. And so the parents took it to the Supreme Court. Now, right now, we're kind of waiting on the ruling, and it seems that the Supreme Court is going to be in favor of the parents. But it's crazy to me that a school district completely ignored their religious liberties, because that's really what the families were saying, is that this kind of education on same-sex marriage and same-sex relationships goes completely against our, religious beliefs. And
incidentally, it was an Islamist who is the lead plaintiff on this case. Mahmoud, I think it is.
yes,
It might be Muhammad, but I think it's Mahmoud. So, just FYI, it's a coalition of Islamists, Jewish and Christian parents who are up in arms about this. But the argument is too many children would be opted out.
That's the problem. It was too many children.
They don't believe in democracy, folks. The people in the schools don't believe in democracy, because if they did, then all they'd have to do is take a vote and they would be voted down. And they know that. And they so desperately want to talk to children about sex.
And it's crazy to me to think that the schools think that they have the upper hand in what the child must be subjected to over a parent.
Yes.
There's no way in a million years I would ever allow my children to be taught something that goes directly against my beliefs or, religion. Especially, these are elementary kids. These are 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I would always want the option to take my kid out of school if I didn't agree with what they were being taught. And to say to parents that no, they can't, it's absurd.
I will tell you why. We have to think like around the issue to try to figure out all of the different things. So why wouldn't they want the parents to opt their kids out? Well, they're definitely, they want to talk to children about sex. And so they also don't want the aggravation of scheduling the times when they're going to talk about sex. They want free reign. They want the ability to talk about sex at any hour of the day.
That's true.
Right?
I mean, it's an indoctrination. They're indoctrinating the children on a certain belief system, and they've lost their way in terms of what our constitutional rights are. And, going back to California again, it's the same.
Constitutional rights. These are the schools. You have no rights. You turn your child over to the school. The school has full control of your child. And by the way, zero responsibility for your child. Zero.
That's true.
Because you can't sue the school if your child gets shot or beat up or anything. You can't sue the school. The parents have tried for not teaching your child to read, and the courts have always found in favor of the schools that it's the parents' job to teach the child.
Yeah.
It's the semblance of responsibility without any of the burden of responsibility.
It's really interesting when you say that. It makes me think of the vaccine issue. My mind always goes back to the vaccine issue, where there's zero liability there. So if a doctor, vaccinates a child and the child ends up dying or seriously injured, you cannot sue the doctor. You cannot sue the pharmaceutical companies. It's very similar. So
somebody should sue.
Well, people have tried. Many people have tried.
Have
very,
they tried?
Very few have won. So
I just wonder if we've entered into a new age, because now you see the judges are making decisions kind of for themselves. It's really quite interesting. Is it legal? Well, it depends what judge you get. I did think of the new title for your new book.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm not gay, and that's okay.
Let me tell you,
That's
there
a
are many
rhyme.
people. It's a rhyming book. Many people have told me that I need to do something like that. And I've thought about it and I've kind of put down notes. I have a lot of different books that I want to do. And there's probably something where along the lines, I will write a book educating children that it's okay to be who they are in a way that they don't need to cut anything off to change who they are. Because I think that the whole
But
transgender
also,
thing.
let's talk just a second about this because, we are born with purpose. We are
Yes.
not taught that we have purpose by our schools, except to the degree that we can earn money. That is our sole purpose, according to the schools. And that's child abuse. To teach a child that is abusive because we have purpose. And the purpose that we have here, among other things, is to be a blessing to others. When
Yes.
you look at your life in that way, you're not concerned about cutting off body parts. Can you be a blessing to other people? You can be a blessing in whatever body shape you have. And if you focus outwardly in that manner, it resolves a whole bunch of internal conflict.
That's
But let's get back to your book. Sorry,
That's
go
a
ahead.
beautiful way to no, that's a beautiful way to phrase it. And I don't think that that's really not taught to children, is that they are a blessing and they're here for a purpose. I don't think that kids hear that enough or at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. That may be your next book.
I've
You're a
got
blessing
some
and you're
ideas.
here on purpose.
Yes.
Born from an unwavering passion for health, truth, and freedom, Rebel Lion teamed up with the world's leading medicinal chemists to form Fierce Immunity. This groundbreaking formula isn't just an immune booster, it's a declaration of independence to your health. Fierce Immunity is GMP certified, made in the USA, non-GMO, gluten-free, and third-party tested, backed by the Rebel Lion commitment to community, health, and truth. Strengthen your defenses, supercharge your energy, and embrace your inner lion. Visit Get Fierce now and use code SAM to get 15% off your order, because real freedom begins with fierce health. Stay ahead of the storm with IQ Weather, a premium all-video homeschool course that makes learning science exciting and engaging. This vivid, entertaining program incorporates physics, chemistry, geography, geology, astronomy, and oceanography, giving your kids a well-rounded education in the fascinating world of weather. Designed to captivate young minds, IQ Weather makes complex concepts easy to understand and fun to explore. Visit iqweather.com and use code SAM to get 15% off your order. Give your kids a science education they'll love and stay prepared for anything. Start your IQ Weather journey today. Spark curiosity and inspire discovery with Light Lab by Suzanne Schera. This hands-on, engaging curriculum brings science and faith together, exploring topics like energy, light, and the wonders of God's creation. Perfect for homeschooling families, Light Lab helps kids discover and develop a deeper understanding of science while growing their faith. Visit lightlabetc.com and use code SAM10 to get 10% off your order. Illuminate your child's education with Light Lab today. Hey there, if you're enjoying today's episode, take a moment, leave me a 5-star review, please. This is the way that people will be able to discover these conversations. And by the way, I will be reading some of these reviews on air. So whether yours is poignant or humorous or simply thoughtful, take a moment, leave me the review, and maybe yours will be the one that is chosen to read on air and share with the world. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. I appreciate you. So let's be critical thinkers. How would a parent go about, because, parents struggle with 8 years old, maybe not. You said 8 to 15. But in the teenage years, parents kind of because of all the damage that the schools have already done to their children, their relationship is, a little rough. And
Yeah.
so they get this book because they want to inspire their child to become a critical thinker. And certainly the schools are not adept at training in that. How do they use this book as a tool?
When I write my books, one of the things I've always kept in mind is that my books are meant to be read with, parent and child kind of having that dialogue. I think it's so important that parents are speaking with their children, whether it's with my first book or the new book. I think it's really important that parents speak with their children and really kind of use my book as a tool to open the dialogue between them about, whether it's masks or vaccines or whatever it may be, or even, simply propaganda. I have two children myself, and they actually with both of my books, they've given me a lot of input so that the book is really kind of seen through a child's eyes. I would say they are my kids are my best editors because they have, really kind of given their input on how they lived through the pandemic and what didn't make sense. And we had that open dialogue all throughout the pandemic and still now, but we'll look at like a billboard and say like, oh my God, the propaganda there, and kind of have that discussion. And that's what I really want my book to do, is to really inspire that conversation between parent and child so that they can look at their surrounding environments and, whether someone is bullying them, whether it's propaganda on a TV commercial or a billboard, and really be able to recognize like who's behind that. Why is that message that message? Where's this messaging coming from? And kind of use my book as a reference, like a stepping stone into really how they see the world, because not many people have their eyes open. And that's the goal of my books are really to open eyes and open minds.
We should do a partnership because I have a Word Bullies poster that is, it covers the logical fallacies that are very prevalent. And it's a really pretty poster, actually. And we should do like a package deal or something and ship them out together.
I would love to. I'd love to do something with you.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people get the book?
So the book is online now for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And people can order it now. It actually starts shipping this summer. And one of the things I just really want to say to your listeners is pre-order is so important. In order to make as many books, for like these companies, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, in order for them to order enough books, people need to pre-order the books so that they know how many to be made. And so I just really want to encourage your listeners to head to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or actually any major bookseller sells them. You can find them on many different book selling websites, and just pre-order the book today.
Okay. Go right now and pre-order Let's Be Critical Thinkers. But before I let you go, I typically ask a few of these standard questions on all my podcasts. Yes. You are a doctor. So you're a doctor of what? And how do your studies relate to what you are doing with your life right now?
So my doctorate's in psychology. My background is mostly in special education and educational therapy. So I've spent the majority of my adult life working with kids with special needs, many of them with autism, ADHD, Tourette syndrome. And, they are those children who I have worked with in therapeutic ways really have been the inspiration for a lot of the work that I do today, because they have been so neglected by our society. And, I'm very grateful that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the head of HHS, and he's really shining a light on the autism epidemic and, children's health. And so really that's where what has fueled my creativity is that I've worked and seen so many children that have been vaccine injured and struggle today in the world with their education. And
Did you did you ever imagine that you would write a book when you were younger?
I've always wanted to be a children's book author.
But you
So
didn't go to school for it.
no, I mean, I didn't go to school for it, but I will tell you an interesting thing is when I was in my very young 20s, I was working in a classroom. I was working in a kindergarten and first grade classroom of children who were hearing impaired. And I wrote a picture book for them at the time. Most of them had cochlear implants. And so I wrote this beautiful picture book about a fish who was unhappy living in the sea and wanted to live somewhere else. And then the kind of moral of the whole story is that at the end of the book, he realizes that he's happy right where he is as who he is. And so that was the first book that I ever wrote. And back then it was before, really kind of before email was like a super popular thing. and so I was printing out, I typed the book on a word processor and printed it out and was like mailing hard copies to all these different publishing companies. This was in like around 2000. And so I did always want to be a children's book author. Nothing ever happened with that book, and maybe one day I'll go back and revisit it.
Right.
But yeah, that really was where I love children's books, and I have, if you saw my own library at home with my kids, we have so many, and I never want to get rid of them. Some of them are actually my
Right.
own children's,
Yeah,
own
yeah.
books that my mom got for me when I was a kid.
Yep, they're important. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, you know, I really kind of wish that I had paid more attention in school. I was kind of a daydreamer, and I was a talker, and which is fine. But one of the things that I wish I had done is paid more attention to some of the lessons that were taught in school instead of, I was always getting in trouble for talking to other
Well,
kids.
maybe they should have made the lessons more interesting.
That is definitely true. Yes, that's true. As an educational therapist, one of the things that I've always told kids and families is that all children learn differently. There's not one right way to teach all children across the board. And unfortunately, the schools that we have today, it's, the teacher teaches in one way, in one method, and that's why so many kids, that's one of the big reasons why so many kids struggle.
Yep.
Is because they're not met at their
That's
ability.
right. Very well said. Okay, last question. What's the most urgent cultural shift needed to sort of get things back on track?
Wow, that's a great question too. Let's see. Well, education, I think we need to start with the children, and we really need to, and I know that you and I are on the same page in terms of homeschooling. I homeschool my kids. I absolutely love homeschool. And I think that we really need to change the way that our educational systems are today, because it sounds so corny, but our children are our future. And if we don't help them now, then what does the future hold? And so that's one of the big cultural shifts that I think is that we really need to revamp our educational systems in a way that meets the needs of all these children.
Yeah. Dr. Shannon Kroner, the name of the book is Let's Be Critical Thinkers. You can see the poster behind her. Thank you so much for coming on the Sam Sorbo Show.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's always great to see you.
Well, that's it for us at the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, speak truth and speak it boldly. We'll see you next time. Take care.
The views and opinions expressed in the Sam Sorbo Show are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of the Herzog Foundation.